Sunday evening shalom. Doing Psalm 30, Acts 23. I'll start with a prayer. This out of the way. Father Yahweh, this is your word which I'm reading. Let it be your word which I speak. Let's do this. Let's move the people. And let's win some victories. In Yeshua's name. Amen. All right. Psalm 30. I exalt you, O Yahweh, for you have drawn me up, and have not let my enemies rejoice over me. Yahweh, my Elohim, I have cried to you, and you have healed me. Yahweh, you brought me up from Sheol. You have kept me alive from going down into the pit. Sing praise to Yahweh, you lovingly committed ones of his, and give thanks at the remembrance of his set apartness. For his displeasure is for a moment. His delight is for life. Weeping might last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. As for me, I have said in my ease, never would I be shaken. Yahweh, in your good pleasure, you have made my mountain to stand strong. You concealed your face, and I was troubled. I cried out to you, O Yahweh, and to Yahweh I prayed, what gain is there in my blood when I go down into the pit? Would dust praise you? Would it declare your truth? Hear, O Yahweh, and show me favor. Yahweh, be my helper. You have turned my mourning into dancing for me. You have torn off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness, so that esteem might praise you and not be silent. O Yahweh, my Elohim, I thank you forever. Wow, David. Strong words by David. Now, what we're looking at today is did 29. What are these running into here? The authority of Yahweh. There's a lot of 29. There's a lot of capitalizations. There's a lot. I mean, Yahweh's in dang near every line. Damn near every line. Probably like 90% of these lines. There's 11. 94% of these lines have the word Yahweh in it. The name of Yahweh. Cliff Schnetzel had talked about Yahweh means to be, and I think that that's the best definition I've ever heard of Yahweh. People talk about, oh, it's the breath, oh, it's this. It ain't none of that shit. I am. Who sent me? I am to be Yahweh. Yahweh is to be, and that is what we are, to be. Okay? That's the most important part of this, because our existence is not dependent on our works. Our existence is dependent on our belief, on our faith. Our existence is dependent on our faith. So, David here is proclaiming his exaltation of Yahweh. I exalt you, O Yahweh, for you have drawn me up, and have not let my enemies rejoice over me. Existence, proven. We've been kind of flying through these Psalms at this point because there's a lot of emotional content in here more than biblical reference, which I think is great. I think not only for me, but also where the world is at right now. I think that the world has a finding to occur. I exalt you, O Yahweh, for you have drawn me up, and have not let my enemies rejoice over me. Yahweh, my Elohim, I have cried to you, and you have healed me. Yahweh, you brought me up from Sheol. You have kept me alive from going down into the pit. Sheol, the grave, death, the pit, the deep. Sing praise to Yahweh. We've already sung these. They might get strung together. The singing might start getting uploaded separately. But we are singing these, and I'm trying to get my hands on a Psalms book for singing. I might just have to go get it. You lovingly committed ones of his, and give thanks at the remembrance of his set apartness. For his displeasure is for a moment, his delight is for life. Weeping might last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. And so this is like if you're hungover, there's a lot of things that you can do at night that'll smack you in the face in the morning, and you have to think about Yah in the morning. You have to think about being in the morning, right? Like when you wake up, your existence occurs. You're lost in your sleep and your dreams. Even how much reference is made from sleep to death, right? Like Stephanos, he fell asleep. And so the path to existence in the morning is the occurrence of life, which is your being, which is your acceptance of responsibility for your part in the world. Get up and go. You lovingly committed ones of his, and give thanks to the remembrance of his set apartness. For his displeasure is for a moment, his delight is for life. Yeah. We're all going to sin. We still sin, even with Messiah, right? Paul says that, say it's Romans 8. There is then now no condemnation to those who are in Messiah Yeshua, who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. For the Torah of the Spirit of the life in Messiah Yeshua has set me free from the Torah of sin and death. For the Torah, being powerless, in that it was weak through the flesh, Elohim having sent his own Son, in the likeness of flesh of sin, and concerning sin, condemned sin in the flesh, so that the righteousness of the Torah should be completed in us who do not walk according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the matters of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit, the matters of the Spirit. For the mind of the flesh is dead, but the mind of the Spirit is life and peace. Because the mind of the flesh is enmity toward Elohim, for it does not subject itself to the Torah of Elohim, neither indeed is it able, and those who are in the flesh are unable to please Elohim. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if indeed the Spirit of Elohim dwells in you. And if anyone does not have the Spirit of Messiah, this one is not his. And if Messiah is in you, the body is truly dead on account of sin, but the Spirit is life on account of righteousness. And if the Spirit of him who raised Yeshua from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Messiah from the dead shall also give life to your mortal bodies, through his Spirit dwelling in you. So then, brothers, we are not debtors to the flesh to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you are going to die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you shall live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of Elohim, these are the sons of Elohim. For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the Spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of Elohim, and if children, also heirs, truly heirs of Elohim, and co-heirs with Messiah, if indeed we suffer with him, in order that we also be exalted together. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the esteem that is to be revealed in us. For the intense longing of the creation eagerly awaits for the revealing of the sons of Elohim. For the creation was subjected to futility, not from choice, but because of him who subjected it, in anticipation that the creation itself also shall be delivered from the bondage to corruption into the esteemed freedom of the children of Elohim. For we know that all creation groans together and suffers the pains of childbirth together until now. And not only so, but even we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit, we ourselves also groan within ourselves, eagerly waiting for the adoption, the redemption of our body. For in this expectation we were saved, but expectation that is seen is not expectation. For when anyone sees, does he accept it? And if we accept what we do not see, we eagerly wait for it with endurance. And in the same way, the Spirit does help in our weaknesses. For we do not know what we should pray, but the Spirit himself pleads our case for us with groanings unutterable. And he who searches the heart knows what the mind of the Spirit is, because he makes intercession for the set apart ones according to Elohim. And we know that all matters work together for good to those who love Elohim, to those who are called according to his purpose. Because those whom he knew beforehand, he also ordained beforehand to be conformed to the likeness of his Son, from him to be the firstborn among many brothers. And whom he ordained beforehand, these he also called, and whom he called, these he also declared right. And whom he declared right, these he also esteemed. What then shall we say to this? If Elohim is for us, who is against us? Truly, he who did not spare his own Son, but delivered him up on behalf of us all, how shall he not along with him freely give us all else? Who shall bring any charge against Elohim's chosen ones? It is Elohim who is declaring right. Who is he who is condemning? It is Messiah who died, and furthermore is also raised up, who is also at the right hand of Elohim, who also makes intercession for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Messiah? Shall pressure or distress or persecution or scarcity of food or nakedness or danger or sword? As it has been written, for your sake we are killed all day long. We are reckoned as sheep of slaughter. But in all this we are more than overcomers through him who loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor messengers, nor principalities, nor powers, neither the present nor the future, nor height nor depth, nor any creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Elohim, which is in Messiah Yeshua, our Master. Okay, so he's saying that there is no condemnation to those who walk in Messiah. And once you have the mental acceptance of your decision to walk in Messiah, so you're saying, I do the works of Messiah, I know the works of Messiah, I act on the works of Messiah, I am not perfect, I accept that, and for his displeasure is for a moment, his delight is for life. Paul is saying exactly the same thing. Weeping might last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. He always allows you to come back no matter what you do wrong. Okay? That is the idea of having the Messiah. That's the whole point of it. There was a verse that I was going to look for, and so I will look for it, and it's going to be Romans 7, which we banged up 8, and so we'll actually read 7 at a different time. But this concept of decided action in Messiah is the existence worth living for. There's so much other hoopla and expectation by men, but the expectation by Elohim is merely the decision the conscious decision that I live in Messiah. And so you don't need to dwell in your conscience, because consciously you exist in Messiah. And sometimes you gotta lose some stuff to figure that out. That everything that you have and live for is for your existence of Messiah. And where you are, where you've gotten, is not for where you will be. How did Paul say it? Yeah, here we go. 38, Romans 8:38. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor messengers, nor principalities, nor powers, neither present nor future, nor height nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Elohim, which is in Messiah Yeshua, our Master. Okay? And this is not some, just sin today, grace tomorrow gospel, because you're decided that you're the major of your existence. Like, I'm picturing like a like if an airplane is like engineered to be aerodynamic, and it's going at 600 miles an hour, and it's got like some little air flaps hanging off the back, like ribbons. It's got ribbons hanging off the back. Those ribbons ain't creating the drag that they appear to be creating. That airplane's going. It's got the jet engines in it. And Messiah's our jet engine, and sin are those ribbons. That's it. That's all they're doing. They're just fluttering back there because we decided that we're going to point A in Messiah. Messiah's the jet plane. Elohim's the jet plane. Messiah's the engine. I guess Elohim's the destination. As for me, I have said in my ease, never would I be shaken. Yahuwah, in your good pleasure, you have made my mountain to stand strong. My mountain, my conquest. You concealed your face, and I was troubled. I cried out to you, O Yahuwah, and to Yahuwah I prayed. What gain is there in my blood? What gain is there in my blood? Like, why? What gain is there is my blood when I go down to the pit? Would dust praise you? Would it declare your truth? I'm no good to you, dead. And so that's why, again, Messiah gives us everlasting life. And the death of Messiah is our ability to not go into the pit. It is to not shed our own blood. It is to let those ribbons flap away because they ain't holding us back. Would dust praise you? Would it declare your truth? Hear, O Yahuwah, and show me favor. Yahuwah be my helper. This is a bold statement from David, an incredibly bold statement from David on account of, you don't want to misinterpret this that he's becoming God, but God has so much authority that whatever David pursues will pay off, because God is propelling us. I guess God's the engine and Yeshua's the engineering. Yeah. Peace and everlasting life are the destination. You say heaven's the destination, but we don't get into it here, but we're going to talk about heaven coming up. And it is not what you think it is. It's not what you think it is. But even so, when David's slaying Goliath, he is knowing Elohim is going to back him up. And he is physically killing Goliath, but Elohim is helping him, because he shouldn't have been able to kill Goliath, knock Goliath down with that one stone. He brought 5 stones, and Goliath had 5 brothers. And so there's that. He takes off all the armor. 1 Samuel 17. Shaul gives him all this armor. He's like, I don't need any of this armor. Takes it all off, grabs his sling, gets rid of the sword, goes slingshots Goliath in the face, and then kills him with his own sword. 1 Samuel 17:38. And Shaul dressed David with his garments, and he put a bronze helmet on his head, and put a coat of armor on him. And David girded his sword over his garments and began to go, but he did not tried them. Then David said to Shaul, I am not able to go with these, for I have not tried them. So David took them off. And he took his staff in hand, and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the wadi, and put them in a shepherd's bag, in a pouch which he had, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. And the Philistine came and began drawing near to David, and the man who bore the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he despised him, for he was a youth, and ruddy and handsome of appearance. And the Philistine said to David, Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his mighty ones. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I give your flesh to the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field. But David said to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of the armies of Israel, whom you have reproached. This day Yahuwah shall deliver you into my hand, and I shall strike you and take your head from you, and give the carcass of the camp of the Philistines today to the birds of the heavens and the wild beasts of the earth, so that all the earth know that Elohim is for Israel. And all this assembly know that Yahuwah does not save with sword and spear, for the battle belongs to Yahuwah, and he shall give you into our hands. And it came to be, when the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hurried and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took a stone and slung it, and struck the Philistine on his forehead, so that the stone sank into his forehead, and he fell on his face to the ground. And David was stronger than the Philistine with the sling and a stone, and struck the Philistine and killed him, and there was no sword in the hand of David. Then David ran and stood over the Philistine, and took his sword and drew it out of his sheath, and killed him, and cut off his head with it. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and Yehudah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance of the valley and the gates to Ekron, and the wounded of the Philistines fell along the way to Shiarim, even as far as Gath and Ekron. Then the children of Israel turned back from chasing the Philistine, and they plundered their camps. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, and he put his weapons in his tent. And when Shaul saw David going out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, as your being lives, O sovereign, I do not know. And the sovereign said, ask whose son this young man is. And when David returned from the striking of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Shaul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. Shaul said to him, whose son are you, young man? And David said, the son of your servant Yishai and Bethlehemite, the Bethlehemite. Right where David's from is born Yeshua of Nazareth in Bethlehem. You have turned my mourning into dancing. You have torn off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness. David dances. He dances. He dances. Second Samuel 6:14. And David danced before Yahweh with all his might, and David was wearing a linen shoulder garment. Thus David and all the house of Israel brought the ark of Yahweh with shouting and with the voice of a shofar. And it came to be, when those bearing the ark of Yahweh had gone 6 steps, that he slaughtered bulls and fatted sheep. David is dancing mightily for Yahweh. You have torn off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness, so that esteem might praise you and not be silent. O Yahweh, my Elohim, I thank you forever. Amen. All right. We are also doing Acts 23 today. Because the book of Acts, last time in Acts 22, we saw the speech of Shaul. We saw Shaul speak Greek. We saw him speak Roman. We saw him do a whole bunch of crazy things, like go in and out of chains multiple times for whatever fucking reason. Okay. Now, let's read Acts 23. And Shaul, looking intently at the council, said, Men, brothers, I have lived in all good conscience before Elohim until this day. And the high priest Hananiah commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. Then Shaul said to him, Elohim is going to strike you, whitewashed wall. And do you sit judging me according to the Torah? And do you command me to be struck contrary to the Torah? And those who stood by said, Do you revile the high priest of Elohim? And Shaul said, I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest, for it has been written, You shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people. Now Shaul, perceiving the one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, cried out in the council, Men, brothers, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. I am being judged concerning the expectation and resurrection of the dead. And when he had said this, there came a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the crowd was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, nor messenger, nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. And there was a great uproar, and certain of the scribes of the party of the Pharisees were earnestly contending, saying, We find no evil in this man, and if a spirit or a messenger has spoken to him, let us not fight against Elohim. And a great dissension having come, the commanders, fearing lest Shaul would be pulled to pieces by them, commanded the body of soldiers to go down and seize him from their midst, and bring him into the barracks. And on the following night, the master stood by him and said, Take courage, Shaul, for as you have witnessed for me in Jerusalem, so you have to bear witness at Rome too. And when it became day, some of the Yehudim made a conspiracy, and bound themselves under an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink until they had killed Shaul. And those making this conspiracy were more than 40, who, having come to the chief priests and elders, said, We have bound ourselves under a great oath not to eat at all until we have killed Shaul. Now then, you, with the council, inform the commander to have him brought down to you tomorrow, as intending to examine more exactly all about him, and we are ready to kill him before he comes near. And when Shaul's sister's son heard of their ambush, he went and entered into the barracks and reported to Shaul. And Shaul, having called one of the captains to him, said, Take this young man to the commander, for he has somewhat to report to him. He indeed then took him and led him to the commander, and said, The prisoner Shaul called me to him, and asked me to bring this young man to you, having somewhat to say to you. And the commander, having taken him by the hand, went aside by themselves, and asked, What is it that you have to report to me? And he said, The Yehudim have agreed to ask that you bring Shaul down to the council tomorrow, as intending to inquire more exactly about him. Therefore, do not let them persuade you, for more than 40 of them lie in wait for him, men who have bound themselves by an oath neither to eat nor drink until they have killed him. And now they are ready, waiting for the promise from you. Then the commander dismissed the young man, having commanded him, Inform no one that you reported this to me. And having called near a certain 2 captains, he said, Get 200 soldiers ready to go to Caesarea, and 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen after the 3rd hour of the night, and provide beasts, on which to place Shaul and bring him safely to Felix the governor. Having written a letter in this form, Claudius Lysias, to the most excellent governor Felix, greetings. This man, having been seized by the Yehudim and being about to be killed by them, I rescued, having come with the body of soldiers, having learned that he was a Roman. And desiring to know the reason they accused him, I brought him before their council. I found out that he was accused concerning questions of their Torah, but there was no charge against him deserving death or chains. And when I was informed that there was to be a plot against the man by the Yehudim, I sent him immediately to you, having also commanded his accusers to state before you the charges against him. Be strong. So the soldiers, as they were commanded, took Shaul and brought him by night to Antipatris, and on the next day they left the horsemen to go back on with him and return to the barracks, who, having come to Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, they also presented Shaul to him. And the governor, having read it, And having asked what province he was, and being informed that he was from Cilicia, said, I shall hear you when your accusers arrive also. And he commanded him to be kept in Herod's palace. So this special man gets the king's palace as his prison. Like Pablo Escobar, huh? And Shaul, looking intently at the council, said, Men, brothers, I have lived in all good conscience before Elohim until this day. Yup. Know that your conscience is right and do not worship your conscience. Let go of your conscience, because your conscience is decided day in and day out that you will work for Messiah. It's a major declaration. It is not minor sin. And the high priest Hananiah commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. So he gets punched in the face because some asshole decided that he needed to be. The high priest there. And Shaul said to him, Elohim is going to strike you, whitewashed wall. And do you sit judging me according to the Torah, and do you command me to be struck contrary to the Torah? So basically, you can't just hit people per the Torah. And so this man just smacks Shaul in the mouth, and he's like, no way are you criticizing my use of the Torah when you're just beating me up, you bitch. He calls him a whitewashed wall. And Messiah has this discussion with the Pharisees regarding the cup. Matthew 23. Okay. So, he's banging up the Pharisees here. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Verse 24. Blind guides, straining out a gnat and swallowing a camel. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are filled with plunder and unrighteousness. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, so that the outside of them becomes clean too. Now this is what Paul means by whitewashed wall. He's like, you just painted your wall, but you're still just a wall. You know? You fucking wash this wall, and you just have no fucking substance to you. You're nothing. And do you command me to be struck contrary to the Torah? And those who stood by said, do you revile the high priest of Elohim? Now, you are not supposed to talk bad about your leaders. However, somebody's got to rebuke these motherfuckers, and there ain't no elders doing it here. And generally, we see the chief priests and the elders all together. I think it's right here, but There's definitely, I mean, we could do the examples, but this is the hierarchy because they're not kings. All they are is managers, right? And so, like, it's literally in this chapter. They come to the chief priests and the elders in this chapter. So they're there and they're just not doing nothing about it, because what are they going to do? We haven't gotten there yet, but it's verse 14. We will get there. Now, I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest, for it has been written, you shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people. That's Exodus 22:28. And so he's coincidentally, he apologizes immediately for his transgression of the Torah, and he shows his knowledge of the Torah. Do not revile an Elohim, nor curse a ruler of your people. Exodus 22:28. I mean, like, this to me is a skill. This is important. This is how you actually argue with people in the world, and this is how you have confidence in Messiah. So if somebody tells you you're doing something wrong, you could tell them, no, this is what it's supposed to be. This is the Torah. This is the way that humans were created to have relationships, and I know this because I studied this word. That's why it's so important for people to read the Old Testament, because you need to know how to act. This is how you act. Messiah did perfectly the heart condition, but the actual actions, so like he's not even like, it's not like he's disrespecting the high priest. He's just saying, he's just Torah checking him, which is a term that I'm going to coin. It's now called Torah checking people. Okay? He's Torah checking this guy, and they go, do you revile the high priest of Elohim? And he goes, I didn't know that he was the high priest, for it has been written, you shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people. He gives him his respect, he repents for his transgression, and he shows his knowledge of the Torah. And like, Shaul is obviously led by the Spirit, but like the way that Shaul talks his way out through all this stuff, man, like, we don't see Yeshua doing that. Yeshua oftentimes is like they're like picking up stones, and then he's like, yeah, it's not time yet, and then they just drop the stones, you know? Like, he's way more confident, and Shaul is way more lawyer-esque, right? Like, he sits, he argues with them, he will make his case, and Yeshua's like, you said it, you know, like, Yeshua don't care. He knows exactly what's happening before it's happening, because he's seen it all. Before Abraham, I am, you know, so, yeah. Now Shaul, perceiving that one part of the Sadducees and the other Pharisees, were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, cried out in the council, saying, Men, brothers, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. I am being judged concerning the expectation and resurrection of the dead. This is pretty cool, because what happens here, he perceives it, so he's paying attention, and he knows the difference between these two. And the difference is, When he had said this, there came a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the crowd was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, nor messenger, nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. Okay. So, Pharisees believe that there will be a resurrection of the dead, per the Torah. So the Torah has been split. Now, I'm curious, this is one of the things that I want to learn, is that where in the Torah and the prophets do we actually receive the prophecy of the resurrection of the dead? Because up until now in Acts, we've heard Shaul make quite a case for the existence of Messiah, and Stephanos in 7, I think, what is it? Shaul does this in 16? $15? $13. Acts 13, Shaul gives the witness of Messiah. Acts 7, Stephanos goes back to the beginning of time, or at least to Abraham. And he goes through Exodus, and he's pretty much making his case as far as the basis of their existence and their history, if you will. And then we have not yet come to anybody saying specifically, these are the prophecies that show that Messiah exists. We've read a couple of them together. We know a lot about Isaiah. He's all the way in Isaiah, even to the star, child will be born, the son, the redeemer, the rock, the this, the that, the savior. I mean, he's in Ezekiel, he's in Daniel, but like in Daniel, he comes and he saves the, he's there in the fire. He's coming on the clouds. There's no mention of the resurrection of the dead. It doesn't say he will be brought back to life in 3 days. And so I really do want to find that. And it can't be that explicit, because obviously the Sadducees would have just been like, oh, well, there it is. So, but these are two sects of the Jews at this point, Pharisees and the Sadducees, and one believes in the resurrection and the Spirit, and the other do not. Which the Spirit is an interesting concept that they don't believe in, because it's literally in Genesis 1-2. So if they'd read their Torah at all, they would know that the Spirit of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. The Spirit of Elohim comes upon everybody from Samson to Gideon to Dawid to fucking Ezekiel's taken up in the Spirit. I'm sure Isaiah and Jeremiah are. Daniel has the Spirit, I'm pretty sure in the beginning of the book. Maybe he doesn't. Yeah, maybe it's not in. Maybe it's not in Daniel as much. But regardless, most books it isn't. And so Daweed's definitely familiar with it. So how they don't believe in the Spirit, but I mean, even so today, like, people pray on the name of the Spirit, and it's like, that's cool, but like, what are you really praying to, for, about, you know? Like, you have no idea. You have no idea. Okay. Resurrection of the dead. Very curious. But Shaul, again, playing the cards here. He's like, he sees that, you know, like, it'd be like if like there's black people and white people trying to hang you, and he just like shouts the N-word and then points to a guy, you know, and it's like, it's just a great like chess play. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, nor messenger, nor spirit, nor messenger. That's interesting too, because the messenger is all over the Torah. But the Pharisees confess both. So that there is basically, I think the issue, at least from how I'm reading this now, I think the issue is that there's going to be a messenger who brings a new spirit once he's resurrected from the dead, which is what Messiah does. And we see here in verse 9, and there was a great uproar, and certain of the scribes of the party of the Pharisees were earnestly contending, saying, we find no evil in this man. And if a spirit or a messenger has spoken to him, let us not fight against Elohim. So because of the fact that they believe the potential for this person to exist, for this being to exist, is they start to side with him and say, hey, if he's telling us all these boxes have been checked, we need to hear him out and start, you know, checking these boxes. Let's go down the list. Let's see if Messiah checks everything, because this guy's a Pharisee. He's the son of a Pharisee, and so he's one of us, and we need to hear him out. And Sadducees are like, this guy's not even making sense. This guy's not speaking our language. And I don't know exactly what's, you know, what set them apart in the first place. Probably this, but like, who was it? You know, like, I'm just picturing like a Martin Luther 95 Theses type deal, where there's just like, at some point somebody decides that something's different, you know. And it's like, yeah, you know, Martin Luther was closer than the Catholics, but like the Catholics also decided that something was different, you know. And so fuck them. Because this is what the truth is, right? And so like, if we can, like, we need to be able to argue scripture, just like our use of Torah checking, just like Torah checking. If we don't have the proper knowledge of the scriptures, which is a lot easier now than it was then, because there was probably 2 copies of the Torah because they were handwritten. And so if we don't have the knowledge of the scriptures, in order, when somebody says, no, God doesn't exist, and you can say, well, what is your question? And I'm even going to give you this, because if you didn't watch, the Psalm 19 is a great excerpt arguing the existence of God based upon a creator greater than you or me. Based upon a creator greater. A greater creator. And a great dissension having come, the commander, fearing lest Shaul would be pulled to pieces by them, commanded the body of soldiers to go down and seize him from their midst and bring him into the barracks. So again, the commander's like, we got to stop this. This guy's just causing too much turmoil. And there's a lot of passion here. I mean, like, this is not a small thing. This is the Messiah. This is the chosen people of the creator of the universe trying to decide whether or not God came in the flesh and saved them all. And a lot of them are ignorant to it, and a lot of them are, would you call it, not overturning the right stones. You know, tied the mint, also in Matthew 23, they tied the mint, the cumin, and the anise, and neglect the weightier matters of the Torah, including compassion and right ruling. It's just a verse or two before where we started. And on the following night, the master stood by him and said, "Take courage, Shaul, for as you have witnessed for me in Jerusalem, you have to bear witness at Rome too." He's like, Shaul thinks he's coming here to die, and so he goes, and Messiah comes to him and says, "You ain't done here. You're going to make it. Take courage, Shaul." Like, how awesome. He's like, yeah, you're doing pretty good. I've seen you in Jerusalem, and you're still going to go to Rome. And, so, like, just more speaking in boldness, right? Like, what do you have to fear when, like, Messiah himself comes to you and says, you got more to do after this, so this is going to just be a blip on the map. Yeah. I think this is also part of the beauty of this whole Christianity is the witness, He's in jail for a couple of days. And when it became day, some of the Yehudim made a conspiracy and bound themselves under an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink until they had killed Shaul. And so you want to talk about Torah violation? They're basically declaring a fast. They're literally declaring a fast in order to kill Shaul. And I find that real interesting because obviously the murder is, way against Torah. But the fact that they're going to, they know that when they fast and pray, they have a better chance of doing anything. And the fact that they're going to try and fast and pray and use God's gift against God is just even more hilarious. Matthew 6:16, and when you fast, do not be sad-faced like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces so that they appear to be fasting to men. Truly, I say to you, they have their reward. But you, when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, so that you do not appear to men to be fasting, but to your Father who is in the secret place. And your Father who sees in secret shall reward you openly. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasure in heavens where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, your heart shall be also. The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is good, all your body shall be enlightened. But if your eye is evil, all your body shall be darkened. If then the light that is within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Okay. So, and when it became day, some of the Yehudim made a conspiracy and bound themselves under an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink until they had killed Shaul. We see this on things like the Day of Atonement, and is that the only fasting day? I think it is. Yeah. I think that's the only commanded fasting day. And Day of Atonement. So they're about to sin and they're doing atonement things. They're just lost. And those making this conspiracy were more than 40, who, having come to the chief priests and elders, there we go, we saw it, said, we have bound ourselves under a great oath not to eat at all until we have killed Shaul. So they go up to their leaders and they're like, hey, we're not going to eat or drink until we have killed Shaul. And I don't think this is a hunger strike thing. I'm more thinking that this is a devotion thing. Now then, you with the council inform the commander to have him brought down to you tomorrow, as intending to examine more exactly all about him, and we are ready to kill him before he comes near. Hey, we got this plot. There's 40 of us. We're going to smoke this dude. Just have them bring him down here. We'll kill him on the way. Your hands are clean. Bada bing, bada boom. Take care of him. Bring him out. Bring him out to the dump. Show him where we put the trash. And when Shaul's sister's son heard of their ambush, he went and entered into the barracks and reported to Shaul. Nephew finds word, and Shaul, having called one of the captains to him, said, take this young man to the commander, for he has somewhat to report to him. And Shaul doesn't make the testimony himself. He doesn't start crying out. He sends his nephew to the commander to give the witness. And he indeed then took him and led him to the commander. So captain takes him to the commander and said, the prisoner Shaul called me to him and asked me to bring this young man to you, having somewhat to say to you. So this guy's already interested in Shaul. He's really commander was also afraid that after he found out that he was a Roman and because he had bound him, having come, the commander, fearing lest Shaul will be pulled to pieces by them, commanded the body of soldiers to go down and seize him from their midst and bring him into the barracks. This commander is highly interested in Shaul. And just imagine, there's actually supposedly books written by this guy, but just imagine being this man, partially he's guarding Shaul right now. He's literally acting as an angel, moving Shaul from place to place as soon as they kill him, because he wants him to have a fair trial, which is awesome and so Elohim-like. And so to have him brought down to you tomorrow, as intending to examine more exactly all about him, and we are ready to kill him. We're back in verse 19. The nephew and the commander are talking. Or going to talk, at least. And the commander, having taken him by the hand, but first went aside by themselves and asked, what is it that you have to report to me? He's like, hey, what do you know? I don't want anybody else hearing this, because they're all fucking in an uproar. They're all in a tizzy. They've all got their panties in a bunch. And we're just going to have this little sidebar over here, me and you. And he said, the Yehudim have agreed to ask that you bring Shaul down to council tomorrow, as intending to inquire more exactly about him. You're going to be set up in this, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And you don't want your guys getting jacked. Therefore, do not let them persuade you. For more than 40 of them lie in wait for him, men who have bound themselves by an oath neither to eat nor drink until they have killed him. And now they are ready, waiting for the promise from you. And so you're going to be the asshole here if you bring Shaul down to the courts and let all these men kill him. Because that's their ploy. They're going to just come, they're going to say, hey, you should just bring them to us and we'll handle it. And they're going to handle it. Or at least they think so. Then the commander dismissed the young man, having commanded him, inform no one that you reported this to me. So there's discretion here, which is beautiful. This commander is not like that terrible. And we see a lot of resemblance to Pontius Pilate in his attempted salvation of Yeshua. He's like, he asked 3 times, I don't want to kill this guy. I don't want to kill this guy. I don't want to kill this guy. This is your king. He says, he tries everything. He says, look at this man, even, and in that, like trying to humanify Yeshua, which he was human, but they were so not listening to the possibility of this man, right? Like, and I gotta wonder how much of it was just people not was it decided ignorance or accidental ignorance? I guess is my question. And, we're never going to have the answer to these. Maybe we will the more we read the Gospels, but I don't think we're going to have an answer to this. They just didn't. It wasn't a thing that they decided needed to be done. And having called near a certain 2 captains, he said, get 200 soldiers ready to go to Caesarea and 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen after the 3rd hour of the night, and provide beasts on which to place Shaul and bring him safely to Felix the governor. So there's a governor here, which I think is, obviously, like, there's probably states and provinces, but I don't know how many other places in the world have states. Basically, they are trying to protect him. They're going to bring him to this place, but they're going to protect him on the way. He's got beasts. He's got a whole bunch of stuff. And having written a letter in this form, Claudius Lysias to the most excellent governor Felix. And so this is the letter that Claudius Lysias, who is the commander, gives to the governor, Felix, at Antiparsips. And desiring to know the reason they accused him, I brought him before their council. This man, having been seized by the Yehudim and being about to be killed by them, I rescued, having come with the body of soldiers, having learned that he was a Roman. I don't think they want him killing Romans. These are Roman soldiers. This is all under the time of Roman rule. And there's he says he rescued him, and he has many times, but he's definitely not taking credit here, but he's basically putting a title like, hey, this guy's not a regular prisoner. They all want to kill him. He's in here for his safety, not because of a crime. And I found out that he was accused concerning questions of their Torah, but there was no charge against him deserving death or chains. They don't know why they want to kill him, but they don't know the Torah. They don't understand how dedicated the Pharisees and the Sadducees are, to the point where they probably don't even eat lunch together, because they're like, you think this and we think this, and so they just are being assholes together, and coming together in a one mind of unrighteousness, and I think that there's an important counterpart here in the opportunity for Claudius Lysias to just execute Paul or give him over to the Yehudim, in that he doesn't know the law of their Torah, so he doesn't know if this person's worthy of death by their Torah, but he doesn't need to know, because under Roman rule they're not going to just take the word for this, there needs to be still trial, and that's where the fact that he'll witness at Rome comes in. Found out that he was accused concerning questions of their Torah, but there was no charge against him deserving death or chains. And when I was informed that there was to be a plot against the man by the Yehudim, I sent him immediately to you, having also commanded for his accusers to state before you the charges against him. Be strong. Be strong. Hey, you're going to need this, because these guys are nuts. And so there's this revelation that occurs, that I sent him immediately to you, having also commanded his accusers to state before you the charges against him. So this fucking brigade, obviously he's got 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, 200 spearmen, and after the third hour of the night. So they're doing this completely in darkness. They're moving this man. They're like, he's a high profile target. They're up in here trying to kill him. We don't want to start a riot, and we don't have to want to start slaughtering these people. And so fortunately, this commander is able to be taken aside by the nephew, have a conversation, and then basically, where are we at? And when I was informed that there was to be a plot against the man by the Yehudim, I sent him immediately to you, having also commanded his accusers to state before you the charges against him. Be strong. I'm just picturing how difficult this must have been, from sitting on a iMac computer in an office, and Shaul's about to be torn to bits. So the soldiers, as they were commanded, took Shaul and brought him by night to Antiparis, which is totally in the Middle East somewhere. I think it's right on top of Jerusalem, top left, northwest. And on the next day, they left the horsemen to go on with him and returned to the barracks. Okay, so Shaul's in the barracks. He's been in the barracks. They're not going to flog him, and they're not going to kill him because he's a Roman. Well, they're not going to flog him because he's a Roman. They're not going to kill him because they don't understand his crime. Which, obviously, Pilate needed to do what he needed to do, but he totally would have let this guy go. And this guy being Yeshua HaMashiach. On the next day, they left the horsemen to go on with him and returned to the barracks, who, having come from Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, they also presented Shaul to him. They bring the letter. They're from where is this? Parish? Oh, this is Jerusalem. The Yehudim have agreed to ask that you bring Shaul down to the council tomorrow, as intending to inquire more exactly about him. Oh, other side. The governor, having read it and asking, and the governor, having read it and having asked of what province he was, and being informed that he was from Cilicia, said, I shall hear you when your accusers arrive also. And he commanded him to be kept in Herod's palace. It's kind of a cool decision. He's like, once your accusers get here, we'll party. But we know that these guys are fasting and praying in order to kill Shaul. And so it's not likely that they're going to show up in the trial. They're not there to be witnesses. They just want to kill him, and they're willing to do whatever they want, whatever they have to do to accomplish that goal. And what they have to do is try fucking harder, because Shaul's got the Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, and the blessing and the backing of the creator of the universe and the Most High Elohim, the most powerful, most authoritative being in existence currently. Praise Yahuwah. Amen.